Welcome back. All right, so my video just went live, my review. I'm going through finding the bot comments and deleting them immediately. And that's 5, 6, 7. Wow, there's a show hidden comment already, huh? Okay, so yeah, Stars fans are going through it, which understandable. Okay, is that the end of it? Nope. Another one. Another one. And see, for people who load up the video right away, so the notification squad as they call themselves, they see these messages, these spam bots, but I've already got rid of them. So then I'll see, wow, this is full of bots. Not if you refresh it, it's not. But I'm just gonna double check and make sure that I got rid of them. Yeah, I got rid of them. All right. Meanwhile, I've got my wife messaging me from the hockey game. How they? I thought the game was available on YouTube. So this is just sort of a behind the scenes, I guess. Abby's YouTube channel, because that's where I watched it last time out. And after I'm done this video, I might go and cheat and watch some of the. Feels like I'm kind of cheating, sitting and relaxing, watching a hockey game without taking any notes. So I wanted to talk about this a bit because I know this topic comes up on the hockey channel where people are like, "Wow, he's so well mannered and he's so calm and collected." It takes a lot of effort. And honestly, it is something that when I was growing up, I struggled with was temperament, and it runs on both sides of my family. I had a grandfather who had an interesting temper, a father who had an interesting temper, and sometimes my mom had a bit of an interesting temper as well. So I knew that that was something I had to keep an eye on. And as I was growing up, I got a little better at controlling it and everything. But I wanted to go through the things that have made me rage over the years because there are people wondering how watching Dallas lose like this, why am I not angry and raging? I was last year. So last year, when Edmonton beat Dallas, I was so mad. So this year, I'm like, yep, Edmonton was better, and Edmonton's still better. And there's just that part of me that I went, nope, it's not worth it. And that's kind of what I had to tell myself with some of the things on the board. So we'll go through this. When I was a little kid, I had the Atari 2600. Very fun little system indeed. And Missile Command was the first game that really drove me insane. Missile Command, if you haven't played it, it's hard to describe, but it's a tower defense kind of game. And very often I would run out of ammo and watch as these missiles would just destroy my city while I was apoplectic beside myself. Like I just narrowly missed them. I'd be so mad. So eventually I had to stop playing Missile Command. Defender was another one. Defender, I eventually I got tired of fighting with the game, and I would just let the aliens just kill all my citizens. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. It's fine. Wasn't as fun as Choplifter. Choplifter was one of the most fun games ever. If you haven't played it, I'm sorry, but Choplifter, very old game, and you'd bring your helicopter down, and all these people would come running out because they're afraid of being attacked by the aliens, which is why mentioning Defender reminded me of Choplifter. But a friend of mine figured out that you could shoot these people, which is terrible. You're supposed to be saving them, and what made us laugh the hardest was that they would run away when you started shooting at them, and rightfully so. But as soon as you stop, they turn around and start running towards the helicopter again. Absolutely one of the funniest things I ever saw in a video game. Need for Speed Most Wanted. I love Need for Speed Underground 2. That was my jam. I love that game. So Need for Speed Most Wanted came out, and I was like, I gotta have this game. I got it on day one. There's something about a game that cheats, and I think, And this is something that drives me nuts. And I know with NHL games, people mention ice tilt. There's nothing more maddening than you're winning a game, and all of a sudden you're guaranteed, and in Need for Speed, you're guaranteed to be slower than the pursuing car. And so when it's a friend of yours, you're kind of like, it's okay. But when it's a CPU, when it's computer controlled, it's really maddening. And there was one of the most wanted on the list. I'm trying to remember how high up I got. And the whole family, I let the whole family, and this is when I was with my ex, and we were raising our kids, and I let everybody take a chance at it. And nobody could beat this one guy. And it made me really angry. And so I would, yell and swear and all those things people do. Um, and eventually one day I went, it's not worth this. And one thing that I've had to start doing more and more as I've gotten older is realize it's not worth being that angry, which is why I've never been a fan of first person shooters. I have terrible hand eye coordination. Um, Really, really not good hand eye coordination. I know my son was really gung ho about being a great gamer and he was going to win all these tournaments. And I kept saying, just temper your expectations, because I kept thinking, if he has my hand eye coordination in video games, he's not going to get it done. And then we took him to a tournament for a video game here in Abbotsford, and he didn't win a single matchup. And then he didn't want to go back. And I was like, look, dude, I wanted to try to tell you that this issue with reflexes and hand-eye coordination runs in the family. And so I'm sorry. It's my genetics, and I apologize. And I meant it. Tecmo Baseball. So I mentioned like how unfair it is when a game decides that's it. Tecmo Baseball. Back to the original Nintendo. Oh my gosh. And it was the reason I never tried Tecmo Bowl. So Tecmo Baseball and the NHL games too. I get ridiculous. I don't like to win. I like to get shutouts. I really enjoy shutouts. Like when I play street hockey, I like playing defense. I like playing back. So I did some of that. I played some forward too in the game this past weekend. I didn't get a goal, but I got close a couple of times. But anytime that there's a goal against in street hockey and it's my fault, I wear that. I'm mad. I'm really upset that it went in the net, and I know it's my fault. It's my turnover. I failed to clear it, or the guy was my check and it went in, and I just botched the check. I went one way, he went the other. Maybe he did a head fake and I took it. I'm really mad. At a meetup last year, I actually hit the net with my stick and broke the stick. Now I didn't hit the net that hard, but I did break my stick. Thankfully, when I did that, my wife was not recording or live streaming the game, because I was like, I ran over to her. I'm like, you weren't recording that, were you? Because that stick, I barely touched the net, but I felt it was my fault. And so that is the one thing now in my temperament that's still there. But that's more of a, I'm mad at myself and I don't yell and swear about it. But back in the day, I definitely did. Now, from a hockey perspective, it happens a lot. The Canucks, 1989, Game 7 against Calgary. I was not happy for years. 1995, they were against Chicago. Almost every game went to, or no, every game went to overtime, and Vancouver couldn't get an overtime goal. It was so infuriating. 2003, Vancouver had a clear path to potentially a Stanley Cup and slipped on a banana peel. And that falling apart, I was really angry. 2009 against Chicago, they were leading the series, and then whoops, nope. At least they had a good start to the series, and then it all fell apart. That might be 2010. I'm just thinking that over in my head, and I'm going, you know what? I think it was 2010. Yeah, kids outside screaming. I agree. I think it was 2010, and I've got my window open. I never have my window open, but Yvonne finally found a screen. So I gave up on finding screens, but we finally have a screen, so I can have my window open a little bit. Then I don't have to worry about a cat just jumping out, and Maple absolutely would. But yeah, 2010 and 2011. 2011 was the last time the Canucks broke my heart. That was it. And I have those moments, and I can't really explain it, but I've always had this ability mentally to go, and that's it. This team will not hurt my feelings again. I'll root for them, and I'll hope that I'm wrong, but I'm going to assume that there's just heartbreak. It's just going to be heartbreak. For Boston, 1990, that final against Edmonton, That was tough. That was a very 88 wasn't as bad. 88 was kind of like fun because I was still new to being a Bruins fan, but 90, I was like, all right, it's Edmonton again. Let's get this. Nope. Lights went out. It's like, even the building's against us. And then losses against Montreal sometimes made me kind of angry. A little bit, sort of, kind of, sort of. There was. I'm trying to remember which one it was in particular. It doesn't really matter. But there have been times where Boston lost to Edmonton or Montreal, and I was just livid. In 2019, when Boston went to the final and lost against St. Louis, that was tough. That was a hard one for me, and that's the last time outside of Dallas in 2024. You'll also see 2016. I was mad at Dallas in 2016 because they had a very good record and good point totals. However, come playoff time, the problem was they didn't have a goaltender. They didn't have a starter or a backup. They had a couple of guys that were very much overpaid, and I had no faith in either of them. In fact, the channel was in its infancy, and I wasn't even watching the playoff games. And I had people going, "Why aren't you watching them? That's supposed to be your team." And I'm like, "Because they're not going to make it. They're just going to be." So when I see Dallas fans now going, "You're not a real fan because you should have seen me 9 years ago." It was worse 9 years ago. I wasn't even watching 9 years ago. And then there was always when hormones kick in, a lot of teenage BS. Um, yeah, yeah. You know the guys that are really obnoxious are like, I don't know why a girl wouldn't go out with me. Yeah, right. Once I learned not to be obnoxious, it got a little bit easier to find a girlfriend and maybe keep her around for more than a week. But yeah, I was pretty obnoxious, so I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to anybody I knew when I was under the age of 18, because I look back at that then, and you ever had those moments where you're like, man, if I could go back in time. I have those moments all the time. And I even find precise moments where I'm like, okay, I'm beating myself up for this from back in grade 4. If I could put myself back that, like, it's ridiculous. It's insane. I've even had times where I've reached out to somebody and said, I want to apologize for this thing that happened. And they answer with, I don't even remember that happening. We're cool. I have no idea what you're. So I beat myself up over stuff that people have forgotten ever happened. Um, but yeah, this is why when people talk about my temperament, yeah, it's something I have to keep in mind. I'm always aware of it. And so I do take a minute. Like for instance, with some of these incidents here, the ones that have occurred while I've had the channel, I've had to take some time. There have been a couple of times where I've been really mad after a game, where I'll kind of go outside, have a little bit of a walk, and just cool down a little bit, and I'll kind of just, maybe I might listen to a couple of songs to chill myself out, and then I'll start to record the review, because it's really important for me that when I'm talking to the camera that I'm as, I don't want to say emotionally neutral because that sounds computerish, but I don't want to seem like angry and bitter and But this year I really haven't been. The only issue I've had with this year's playoffs have been they're very boring and predictable, and I've really I wanted chaos. I wanted just an amazingly chaotic, brand new teams. Nobody has any idea what's going on, and that just doesn't seem to be the NHL's way anymore. We're not getting that kind of chaos anymore. We haven't had that in a long time. So it is what it is in the end, right? So I wanted to talk about this a bit, uh, because it has come up about how my attitude is, and I now have an attitude that is I am rooting for Team A. I would like them to win, and this is in any sport. But if Team B wins, I get it. I get it. It happens. And as long as Team B is legitimately better than the team I'm rooting for, I'm fine. If I feel like, and going back to Dallas in 2016, if they'd had an actual reliable starting goaltender, they probably would have gone further and maybe Dallas would have won a cup in 2016. But they didn't. They didn't have the goaltender and they didn't take that run. So all I could do was say, well, I think it was St. Louis knocked them out that year. St. Louis was better. They had a goalie. Dallas didn't. So, ta-da! Right? And I've had to kind of develop a sense of humor about it. Um, but the temper thing, I definitely have to, take a minute. One thing that I've become much, much better at as I've gotten older is understanding the roots of the temper, the roots of why I'm angry in the moment. And it may not be because of a game. It might be something else from whenever. It might be something else that I saw, or something else is bugging me and that just sends me over the top. So I do every day make sure that I'm keeping track of that. Um, I always try to be completely transparent with my wife Yvonne. So if I'm in a bad mood, I'll just say, "Yeah, I'm in a mood today," and I'll just send her that on Messenger because we live in a house and she's usually in one part and I'm in another, and I'll just message her, "I'm in a mood today, just so you know. Sorry." And sometimes I don't even know why. One thing I've been aware of lately, and I talk about being a little different than other, and I understand I see things very different than other people do. I've talked about it both with my wife, and I've talked about it with my ex. I've had long talks with my ex over the last little while, where I've basically told her I'm sorry. I'm starting to realize that the whole idea of being neurodivergent and different, that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Nobody paid any attention to that. Now I'm starting to understand that kid in the corner of the room that was always staring at the ceiling and looked kind of dazed, and then he'd be staring out the window. Maybe they weren't getting the kind of help they needed. So instead of teachers and students all making fun of the kid that can't pay attention, maybe somebody should have realized that kid wasn't in the environment where they were going to excel. So I never had anything like that, but I do know that I will wake up and I'm just in a mood. And I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I don't have any idea. And it's a hair trigger. And that's usually when my videos are shorter. There's a lot less THG-isms during them when I'm in a bad mood. And it can stay for the whole day, or I could be fine a few hours later. But it's something I'm more aware of now than I was when I was a kid, and definitely something I'm more aware of now, even than I was 20 years ago. There have been times where I would go to work. At my old job, the benefit of that was that I worked in a warehouse, and as long as I was in shipping, as long as I was filling orders, so I'd go around a warehouse and pick up all the product for whatever order was going out, and I could do that for 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I would do it for 5 hours without even a break. I wouldn't take a coffee break or lunch, nothing. Might take a bathroom break, that's it. And I would do that for 5 hours, and it felt great. I wouldn't even talk to anybody. I had days at work where I would go and I worked at 4:20 in the morning. I know, insert laughter here. I'd work till 1 in the afternoon, and I would walk out at 1:10, and I'd be like, I didn't talk to anybody today. That was great. I feel so much better. And sometimes I just need time to myself, and I might be humming songs to myself. I might, be making my own remixes. I did a lot of that at the old job. I'm really, really hoping my voice was really low and nobody could hear me singing to myself, because, dear Lord, nobody needs to hear that. Um, but yeah, I've learned techniques over the years to get my temperament and bring it down. So whenever I see people talking about how even tempered I am, I go, that's good. That's good. The other thing that I'm always proud of too is people aren't always necessarily correct about who I'm cheering for in a hockey game or in sports in general, and I think that's a good thing too. If people can't tell who I'm actually cheering for when I talk about sports, that's good. And I'm happy about that when that takes place. Of course, longtime viewers know. But I wanted to talk about this tonight. I know it's very different than everything else I've been talking about with all the wrestling and everything. I will be doing the wrestling reviews. I just wanted to talk about this tonight because I know that there are very likely other people who have a similar temperament, and so I wanted to talk about this. I also know that a lot of my viewers are a lot younger than I am, so if you're going through this kind of thing with temperament, my advice would be simple. If a video game pisses you off, stop playing it. Don't be ashamed of turning the difficulty down to a level where you're not going to give yourself an aneurysm. And if anybody says, oh, you're not a real gamer, just go, yeah, I'm not a real gamer. Big deal. I'm having fun. Go away. There you go. So I've never been shy about the fact that I will turn the difficulty level down. And it's not because I can't play certain games. It's because I know my temper. And I know how quickly, like I said, shutouts. I wanted shutouts. And in Tecmo Baseball, you'd get to the 7th inning, and I could have an 8-0 lead, and I'd lose the game 9-8. And I would rage. And I didn't rage because I lost. I raged because the game was easy, and then the 7th inning, no matter what I threw, no matter if I brought in a new pitcher, it didn't matter. I could bring a starter in who's got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and a great curveball, and every single pitch, home run, double, home run. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting angry, I had a 7-0 lead. It's now 7-3, 7-4, 7-6. I'm going to take this Nintendo and see if it can fly. And so yeah, that's why I don't do that. So don't be ashamed of saying, all right, I got a really bad temper and I need to control that. And if anybody talks about you being weak or anything, it's your mental health. And I do think that there's definitely something to be said for avoiding situations that are going to make you really angry. And so I do my best to avoid situations that are going to make me really angry. One benefit of working from home and being my own boss, and everything is I can't complain about somebody else when I work long hours. I did that to myself. Um, the situations I run into where it's like, oh, I've got so much to do and all this, because I set the bar that high. So I don't have those rage moments as much. One thing I did this year, so it's not on the board, one thing I did this year, I obsessed a lot with watching hockey games and trying to make sure I got every single important moment on the board. Everything had, I can't miss anything. I can't miss, which when there's more than 10 games on is impossible. For one person, that's impossible. And so over the last couple of years, I have let myself off the hook a little bit, where I'm like, okay, stop trying to watch everything at the same time. Stop trying to be in 12 games at the same time. Just write on the board what you see. Don't stress yourself out. If something happens you don't talk about in a review one night, the next day you can talk about it in a news video. You're good. Relax. I had to let myself relax. And it worked. I was not nearly as stressed this year watching hockey games. I didn't have any moments where I started getting really angry. I had a couple of. The only thing that I find kind of irritating is when there's a lot of games on, and then there's goals in all kinds of games, and I'm trying to keep up with everything. So but I found a way around that too, where I just stopped writing down who scored the goals. I was like, I'll just throw a goal magnet on that. And that took my stress level from, 9 or 9.5 down to like 4. I'm like, I'd still like to know what happened, but it's fine. I'll just ching, 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 done. So, yeah, if something's stressing you out that badly, ask yourself one question. Is it worth it? Is it actually worth it? And that applies to TV shows. I don't rage quit. I just stop watching. YouTube channels that I don't watch anymore, I don't rage at them. I don't tell them I think that, your quality's dropped. I just don't watch anymore. Which is rare. Honestly, it's rare. Most of the channels I watch now I've been watching for years. There are actually a few I've picked up, but I haven't dropped very many. It usually takes that the channel meanders off course, and I know how weird it is for me to say that on the Entertainment Guy channel, where one video to the next doesn't necessarily match up with the content from before. But anyways, there you go. I just wanted to talk about this tonight. It's been on my mind, and with some of the conversations I've had in the comment section on the hockey channel, where we're like, I don't know, you're not really a fan, because if he was a fan, he'd be angry. I can be angry. It's not worth it. It's like, even, yes, I'm the hockey guy. I love hockey. I would be so happy if a team I root for won a Stanley Cup. I'd be, jumping up and down and freaking out, and I'd be so happy. But I know it's generally not something that's happened. 1999 Dallas wins the Stanley Cup. I was very excited, but I was DJing in a bar at the time, and I was the only person that cheered. So I had to kind of quiet down quickly. And then by the time I got home from my job, it was about, because I was DJing, it was about 1:30 in the morning, and nobody's awake, so I just went to bed. So that was my happiest night as a hockey fan. That's it. Ta-da! Anyways, maybe that's what I need to do. I need to start DJing again at pubs, and maybe that'll work. Maybe then a team I root for will win a Stanley Cup again. But yeah, so there you go. Thank you guys for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, as the channel continues the drive for 31,000 subscribers. And if you feel like you're really angry with something or someone, 2 questions. Is there a way to approach it where you're not going to rage? And is it really worth it? Those are the 2 things. But thank you guys for all your support. I will continue to take my temper and keep it as under control as possible, because it's really important. I don't want to be remembered someday as, hey, that hockey guy there, remember he had that stress-induced heart attack and died while he was watching a Canucks game in a Stanley Cup final. Damnedest thing, they won the Stanley Cup a week later. I don't want that. I don't want that ever. I know there's people laughing right now, like the Canucks will win the Stanley Cup. Me having a stress-induced heart attack from the Canucks, not considered weird or out of the realm of possibility. But then winning a Stanley Cup, that's where it gets crazy. All right, thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will review WrestleManias once again. I will get back to that. There's no real rush with it, though, so I'm taking my time and throwing in other videos in the meantime. So thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you again soon.